And after that rousing song, we can take a deep breath and hold it and release it. And just settle in a moment of silence before we begin this invocation. Knowing that we are each in this now moment that says, yes, God is all there is. Really, when you think about it, what more can you ask for? God is all there is. Therefore, as an affirmative prayer goes, the next section happens to be unity. Well, how could there not be unity if all there is God? I see this as God consciousness. I know that I am God's stuff. Therefore, I know that each one of us together in unity, inward and outward, are each God's stuff, and we are that in community. Everything we've heard so far today says, yes, we are that. Aren't we fortunate? Say, yes, we are fortunate. Yes, yes, yes. And coming up in this beautiful 5th Sunday experience of being Practitioner Sunday, we have Adrian, our very special speaker of the day. And I know, as you know, that everything that he has prepared for us is in, through, and as God, as his own beingness, as God stuff in God consciousness. Now, aren't we lucky? Yes. So I know through all that has been accomplished, and when you think of Adrian today, he is not only the speaker, but he's been our audio and our video, and even with his good helper in Carrie, that's a lot. And look how wonderfully everything has gone so far. So now I know, I have faith, I have trust, all is well. And I'm sure that all of us can say, and so it is.
At Center for Spiritual Living Beaumont, we believe in spiritual living. Above all else, it is a philosophy that teaches us how to think and not what to think. We invite everyone to practice this philosophy by living in principle. We believe that God is all there is, and each person's relationship to God is a personal one. Every person, place, and thing, and all the space in between is not only an expression of God, but God itself. All love, peace, and beauty that is God exists within each person right now. Together we are all connected as one. Our faith allows us to apply this philosophy to our lives in every moment of every day. As we live in love, we see love revealed and flowing through the world around us. We act as citizens of this spiritual community at all times. This is how we think. We believe in God, we believe in ourselves, and we believe in you because we believe in spiritual living. We are the Center for Spiritual Living Beaumont.
Good morning. Happy Halloween. I see some Halloweeny stuff out there. It's really awesome. So the title of my talk today is I'll Meet You There. This is kind of it was an interesting thing writing this. When I started, I had written this thing that I intended to end my talk on, and I was going to include all this other stuff. But as I went through it, God decided differently. So, I just kind of, I went with that. So Rumi says, out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about. Ideas, language, even the phrase each other doesn't make any sense. So how do we get there to this field of the infinite, this field of love, peace, heaven? Let's start with ourselves. Whether a person is right or wrong, an action is correct or incorrect, whether the place is good or bad, these are all judgments. You've decided something about something or someone, and that is what you think of it or them. In your mind now is this lump of knowing. that doesn't allow you to know or think differently. This could be something that you consciously decided for yourself, or someone you were talking to, or someone on TV said some sentence that you took for truth and that had an assumption in it that you didn't catch consciously. But it helped form your judgment about that person, place, or thing. You are, right here, right now, in this moment, in the seat that's right for you. It's the right seat. If we were to take a break and leave the sanctuary, or, get up and move around, or for those at home, get out of your seat, go get a glass of water or something and leave, you'd sit back in the same seat. You sit back in the same spot, because that's what's right in your mind. You've made a judgment, whether you know it or not, on what right is without even thinking about it. And like a rubber band, you just snap right back into that same spot, right? Not because it's true, but because it's right in your mind. So I have a little exercise. I would like everybody that has not, that is in your normal seat, and even people that aren't in your normal seat, get up and move to a different seat. Just move. Everybody move. If you always sit in the back, sit in the front. You always sit in the front, sit in the back. Change everything. Just stir it all up like a soup. Move it around. Do something you ain't done before. I know, it's random, right? Totally random. It's like, what is this crazy guy doing up at the front? Now, I want everybody to look around you at each and every person around you. Give each one a second of consideration, just look at them, absorb them for a second. Absorb me for a second. You see, perspective is everything. Where you are, who you believe you are, who you think is talking to you. The simple act of moving where you are has given you a different light on how I look and how each and every one of you look, right? The idea of each of these faces of God has changed in your mind. Not because each of them has become different, although everybody does come different second by second. We all change, the energy that makes up our body is different every second, but because you forced a reevaluation in your mind of how each person you see is by changing how you're looking at them, right? So all of a sudden you just see them differently. All you had to do was move a little bit, right? This is why it's so important to know it's none of your business what someone else thinks of you. Because they aren't thinking of you. They're thinking of some imaginary person in their mind that they think they see when they're interacting with you or when they're looking at you, right? These aren't the same things. The person you see at this podium is not who you think he is, right? There's an imaginary person in your mind that is built on past interactions and things you've gleaned from other points of view that make it easier to interact with this person in the moment. So now that I've pretty much shattered the idea that you know anybody around you or that anybody around you knows who you are, let's make it easier to know everyone. You all remember the field I was talking about in the beginning of the talk? The whole point of this talk is about the field. Ernest Holmes once said in Science of Mind, page 87.4, "There is no such thing as your mind, my mind, and God's mind. There is only mind, in which we all live and move and have our being." I'm going to repeat that. There is no such thing as your mind, my mind, and God's mind. There is only mind, in which we all live and move and have our being. What we could all glean from this is that not only is the constructs in your mind of people you know and the things that you know in the world an illusion, but the construct that contains all those illusions is also an illusion. The fact of separation is a construct. I don't know how many of you were paying attention to the video at the beginning. For those on YouTube, it's Alan Watts talk talking about separation, or the lack thereof in the universe. The mind that you are so reliant upon, knowing so many different things about everyone and everything around you, is illusionary. That's not to say you're mindless, obviously. It's like spirit is an ocean and each of us is a cup of water in the ocean. We're just not separate, right? The separation between is the illusion. The illusion of separation, the illusionary construct in your illusionarily separated mind, while that may be a fact to you in this moment, is not truth. To know and to trust, as I've been saying since about halfway through my second practitioner year class, is faith. Here's something we all need to talk, and we all need to have faith about. That truth, and speaking truth, and being truth to everyone and everything, and in every moment of our life is not only okay, it's crucial to breaking through our own barriers that we have placed in between ourselves and the infinite, all-knowing, all-powerful God and that field. Here in our center, in Science of Mind, we talk about how we are spiritual beings having a human experience, right? There's an implication in there, in that statement, that often seems to be missed by people. The first Merriam-Webster definition of spirit is an animating or vital principle held to give life to physical organisms. The second is a supernatural being or essence. So spirit is the essence of life. I'm going to say that again. Spirit is the essence of life. I'm somewhere around about 102% positive and sure that essence of life is God. So when we say we are spirits having a human experience, we are literally claiming our place in God. All of us are. God is living through us as us. Or as the Beatles say, I am he, as you are me, and we are all together. Right? The Walrus, love that song. The separation, the illusion, is in the perspective. This is true in not just what we experience with or about each other, but what we experience about our circumstances. I recently picked up a gentleman in the course of my rideshare driving. I was doing my Lyft thing, who was on his way to pick up a truck. He told me he got up in the morning and couldn't get a hold of the person who was supposed to give him a ride to go pick up this truck that he had made a reservation for. He and his rideshare app wasn't working. The poor guy's like distraught. He was distraught. He was frustrated. He needed to get a truck to do the job he was hired to do. He was hired to move this product from one place to another, and he couldn't do it. He ended up calling a different friend of his who, while they couldn't provide him with a ride, were able to hook him up with a truck for almost half the price that he would have ended up paying for it in the first place. So, and then his rideshare app worked, and then I picked him up and took him to the truck that he was going to pick up. His emotional response in that was, his perspective, was one of badness. He looked at his circumstances and the forest, and all he saw was a rotten tree, right? He thought the forest was rotten trees because he saw a rotten tree in front of him. God, however, had a different view, or spirit, whatever you want to call it. God saw a way for him to do what needed doing in a way that was far superior to what he had worked out. The illusion he experienced, the separation, was that somehow God didn't have this, as if at any moment, in any action, in any situation, God could not be in it. You never know what God has in store, but God is everywhere. From his perspective of spirit, of God, all is always indeed well, right? Imagine God being able to see the ending for every story, being stressed about the middle. I usually fall back on my logic classes at moments like that. If God is omnipresent, omnipotent and omniscient, then it's safe to assume that while I may not know how the story currently ends, God does. Just saying. And while the circumstances we find ourselves in are a reality, they are not truth. Truth is the flow. If truth is that the flow of the universe, the flow of spirit, is constant. It doesn't stop. It's constantly in motion, right? A spiritual perspective of this truth will help us realize that life moves with ease and grace. So we need to remember that the universe never stops. Just because it looks one way this second doesn't mean it's going to look the way the next. You ever seen one of those Mandelbrot moving computer things, and you see like a star in it or something, and the next second it isn't a star, right? It's constantly moving. That's the universe. The reality of truth is always greater than the reality that we think we know in the appearance from our own perspective. So let's talk about how to get to that field. Wait, you guys remember the field, right? Okay. This whole talk is about that field. As Neil so lovingly pointed out over and over again, he likes to repeat things. Hey, Neil. He's online. The spiritual practices that we engage in daily, you all engage in spiritual practices daily, right? Okay. Anyway, they help to bring about that clearing of the closet, that removal of false beliefs, judgments, right? Clearing the divisions in our house. I have a couple of spiritual practices for you. These are, first one's mine, the second one came from home office. As you go about your day, when you're approaching someone, something, or a situation, especially one in which you're familiar, right? You know exactly what to expect. Think to yourself, I don't know. I don't know. Because admitting that you don't know about what they are or who they are, about what is happening, about anything, allows you to be free to look up to that mountain from which help comes. That infinite presence to guide you in every moment, even especially in moments where you already know how it's going to go. Because you don't. You have no idea. None of us do. And that's good. There's nothing wrong with that. That's what makes life interesting. That's the spice, right? That's the spice. What does God have in store for me today? I'm going to go talk to this person that I talk to every day and something different's going to happen, right? And that's awesome. It allows you to give yourself wholly over to Spirit, to God, to help you ascend to the new and to get into that field. If you have a little more time, take something that's concerning you into meditation. Hold on, this thing is not being friendly. I'll hold it in place. Anyway, take something that's concerning you into meditation. You can actually do this physically if you want to. What you do is you like hold it like an object. Say you're worried about your brother, your nephew, your son. You're worried about an interview you got coming up. You're worried about something, right? You take it and imagine that it's a thing. Put it and hold it in your hand as like an object and breathe. Just breathe. And then gently lift your gaze up to the horizon and then above the horizon line to the mountain from which your help comes, right? Use that as a metaphor. You're looking to Spirit. You're looking to God. Invite Spirit to reveal truth to you about this situation or this person. Then simply sit and listen. Listen to whatever comes through your head. And if you want to know how to do this, that vision circle that Yvonne was telling you about, that's a good place to learn how to do this. And then journal about it, which is another spiritual practice that we all should be getting into. You get random thoughts, you need to write them down. When you're sitting in meditation and you get thoughts when you're visioning, that's what journal is for. It's not just for how my day went, or this person said this. It's for when God's talking to you. I've got a radical idea, and it's not my own. It's actually something taught in practitioner studies, and something that Neil always told me when he was talking about treatments. Detach yourself from the results, right? You don't need to take on the idea of failure or success as part of how you view yourself. and how you feel about yourself. Same thing with where you are. Same thing with what someone else does or says around or about you. These are all circumstantial things, and they only have the power that we give them. So let's get back to that field. You remember that field? The field is the whole point of this talk, this journey, this life. The field has been called many things. It's been called home, the journey's end, promised land, nirvana, paradise, heaven. It's all the same thing. And you don't have to die to live there. You could be there now. Each of us can be in that field. We just need to get our houses in order. Undivide our house against itself. Each of those judgments about these illusionary beings, things, places, and circumstances we have in our illusionary mind, these are negatives. They're blocking the spiritual flow in ourselves, dividing us in ourselves. Our hard-held opinions are the very things that cause our own little part of the flow of spirit to be ruffled, blocked, and rough. I'm not saying we can't know a person has lied in the past when we go and interact with them and may lie again. That's just knowledge. But they're not a liar. We're not creating a block in our mind that says, liar, right? So you don't want those things in your brain and in your mind. Those are judgments. The person who lied in the past and may lie in the future, they're not a liar, they're a spiritual being just like you. All of you. They're having a human experience. They may be learning the hard way. That's but they're still a spiritual being, and they're on their own path, right? You don't need to take on their whatever and put that into yourself. By not judging based on the appearance that we perceive, we are allowing that greater perception, that infinite, to guide us through the experience. I want you to repeat after me. I'll read it the first time, and then I'll let you guys repeat the second time. I don't want you to hear me say it all the way through once. I will allow that this thing exists, but it is not truth, for there is always something greater, above, and beyond. So now repeat after me. I will allow that this thing exists, but it is not truth. For there is always something greater, above, and beyond. That's a good one to keep in mind. Ever notice that the phrase is, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death? I'm sure everybody's heard that at least once, right? It doesn't say around it. By admitting that something is but is not true, that there is something above and beyond it, we're allowing that infinite to flow through us, to guide us through it. Through this situation, through an interaction with a person, through the scary moment of what we thought we knew. In this way, we will ascend into greater knowing. This is how the universe becomes more than it was, grows and expands, free of past ideas. Ernest Hope says in Science of Mind, page 264.3, we cannot be in peace until we know that the Spirit is the only cause, medium, and effect in our lives. There is no past, present, and future to it. Evil has no history and has never entered into the being or the experience of reality. We cannot be in peace in that beautiful field until we know that every moment, everything, every person is Spirit manifesting. That each and every moment of ourselves is steeped in Spirit, and that there is no time, place, or circumstances where this is not true. What will happen if we all practice that presence? By performing the spiritual practices we have, by walking that walk that we talk. I know that if we don't, the house will remain divided, and the field will be forever beyond our reach. We must let go of old judgments, stories, beliefs, hurts, fears, and angers. We do this not by wrestling with them, but by looking up to the source, which is our freedom. Spend time each day taking an area of concern, personal or global, and sit with eyes upward and invite Spirit to shed light on that circumstance. Then listen without analyzing to the wisdom that might seem from beyond the veil, yet it's actually living within us all the time. This weekend and the next couple of days, we celebrate a time of belief that the veil between this world and another world is thin. Halloween, Samhain, Dia de Muertos. They're all considered liminal or threshold days. We can use this as a metaphor for moving past the scary monsters, the judgments in our own mind, and of appearances, and in honoring the other world, the one we know of as spirit. We view children trick-or-treating with delight instead of fear. What if we brought that same consciousness, knowing we are safe despite appearances, knowing that everything is spirit manifesting, knowing we are truly one to the circumstances of our lives and our world? We can meet on a plain, a field, beyond our current familiar one. I will meet you on that field. Thank you. Let's all close our eyes. Take a nice deep breath in. Just release all that judgment, all those thoughts, all those things we thought we knew. And center into the here and now. Knowing and trusting that God in that omniscience, all-knowingness, that omnipresence everywhere, in every one of us, in every part of every piece of our body, that omnipotence, no power greater. We are knowing and trusting that this spiritual presence, this practicing the presence that each of us are here now doing, spread outward into the world. Knowing and trusting that this presence is in every corner of the world, spreading that love, being love. All parts of the world are already in that moment of perfection. And that each and every appearance around us is just resolving into that perfect presence. I am knowing and trusting that each and every person here, as they leave this place of peace and love, will spread this peace and love outward into the world like ripples in the water, bringing that absolute all throughout the world. That just by the mere act of being, we bring the world into that more perfect space that God has already decided the universe is to go towards. I am knowing and trusting that each and every person here, having received this message, will bring this message forth out into the world to each and every person that they meet, forever bringing this love outward. I'm so grateful for these truths, for this love, for this presence, for this knowingness that that field is not only awaiting each of us, but is inside, just yearning to be filled. I'm so grateful for these truths and for so much more. And I release my word into the perfect action and order of the law, knowing it to be true, knowing it to be whole, knowing it to be complete, knowing that that field is all around each and every one of us, and knowing that the law has this, that God has this. And together let us anchor and affirm this prayer by saying together, and so it is. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for our Sunday service. Please remember to like, comment, and share this video on Facebook, YouTube, and any other social media you are a member of. To donate to CSL Beaumont, you can text GIVE to 951-420-6909 or you can visit our website at cslbeaumont.org and click the donate button at the top or bottom of the page. You can also mail your donation to CSL Beaumont, 802 Maple Avenue, Beaumont, California, 92223. Have a blessed day and namaste.
So everybody repeat after me. Something wonderful is happening to me right now. It is this thing called life. Life is in my mind. Life is in my body. Life is all around me at all times. Life is God. God is life. I am so grateful. And so it is. Gotta give you some.
Okay, okay. Let me do this. This is gorgeous. Reverend Beverly made it for our center and told